Jailbreak. 1 month after filming ended for the last home run, we said goodbye to our home in West Palm Beach and all the memories it held. We needed more room for our growing family, and we moved into a new house in Boca Raton. From our living room window, we could see a small city park filled with playground equipment. The kids adored it, and our new house had an in-ground swimming pool. No one loved the pool more than our water dog. If the pool gate was open, Marley would charge for the water. Getting a running start from the family room, he flew out the open doors. With one bounce off the brick patio, he'd land in the pool on his belly with a giant flop that sent a geyser into the air and waves over the edge. Swimming with Marley was potentially life-threatening, a little like swimming with an ocean liner. He would come at you full speed ahead, his paws flailing out in front of him. You'd expect him to veer away at the last minute, but he would simply crash into you and try to climb aboard. If you were over your head, could push you beneath the surface. "What do I look like, a dock?" I would say, and cradle him in my arms to let him catch his breath. His front paws paddled away on autopilot as he licked the water off my face. One thing our new house did not have was a Marley-proof bunker. At our old house, the concrete one-car garage was pretty much indestructible, and it had 2 windows that kept it comfortable even in the dead of summer. Our Boca house had a 2-car garage, but it had no windows and was stiflingly hot. Sometimes the temperature felt like 150 degrees. We needed to find a place for him in the house. The first time we left him alone in our new house, we shut him in the laundry room, just off the kitchen, with a blanket and a big bowl of water. When we returned a few hours later, he had scratched up the door. The damage was minor, but we knew it was a bad sign, considering his horrible fear of thunder. "Maybe he's just getting used to his new surroundings," I offered. "There's not even a cloud in the sky," Jenny observed skeptically. "What's going to happen the first time a storm hits?" The next time we left him alone, we found out. As thunderheads rolled in, we cut our outing short and hurried home. It was too late. Jenny was a few steps ahead of me. She opened the laundry room door. "Oh my goodness." She said it the way you would if you'd just entered a crime scene. Again. "Oh my goodness." I peeked in over her shoulder, and it was worse than I had feared. Marley was standing there, panting frantically, his paws and mouth bleeding. Loose fur was everywhere, as though the thunder had scared the hair right out of his coat. The damage was worse than anything he'd ever done before, and that was saying a lot. The entire wall was gouged open. Plaster and wood chips and bent nails were everywhere. Electric wiring lay exposed. Blood smeared the floor and walls. "Oh my goodness," Jenny said a third time. "Oh my goodness," I repeated. It was all either of us could say. "Okay, we can handle this. It's all fixable," I said, after several seconds of just standing there mute. "A few $100 and we'll be good as new," she chirped. "That's what I'm thinking too," I said. As we talked, Marley curled up on the rug in front of the kitchen sink and let out a deep sigh. I knelt beside him and stroked his blood-caked fur. "Geez, dog," I said, "what are we going to do with you?" Without lifting his head, he looked up at me with the saddest, most mournful eyes I've ever seen and just gazed at me. It was as if he were trying to tell me something important he needed me to understand. "I know," I said. "You can't help it." The next day, Jenny and I took the boys with us to the pet store and bought a giant steel cage. They came in all different sizes for all different sized dogs. When I described Marley to the clerk, he led us to the largest one of all. It was enormous and made out of heavy steel, with 2 locks to hold the door securely shut. It was big enough for a lion to stand up and turn around in, and had a heavy steel pan for a floor. This was our answer, our own portable prison. Connor and Patrick both crawled inside, and I slid the bolts shut, locking them in for a moment. "What do you guys think?" I asked. "Will this hold our super dog?" Connor teetered at the cage door, his fingers through the bars, and said, "Me in jail." "Wattie's gonna be our prisoner," Patrick chimed in, delighted at the prospect. Back home, we set up the crate next to the washing machine. The cage took up nearly half the laundry room. "Come here, Marley," I called when it was fully assembled. I tossed a milk bone in, and he happily pranced in after it. I closed and bolted the door behind him, and he stood there chewing his treat, unfazed by the new life experience he was about to enter, the one known in prison as solitary confinement. "This is going to be your new home when we're away," I said cheerfully. Marley stood there panting contentedly, not a trace of concern on his face, and then he lay down and let out a sigh. "A good sign," I said to Jenny, "a very good sign." That evening, we decided to give the maximum security dog jail cell a test run. This time, I didn't even need a milk bone to lure Marley in. I simply opened the gate, gave a whistle, and in he walked, tail banging the metal sides. "Be a good boy, Marley," I said. "You know something?" Jenny said as we loaded the boys in the minivan to go out to dinner. "What?" I asked. "This is the first time since we got him that I don't have a knot in my stomach leaving Marley alone in the house," she said. "I never even realized how much it put me on edge until now." "I know what you mean," I said. "It was always a guessing game. What will our dog destroy this time?" "I think that crate's going to be the best money we ever spent," she said. "We should have done this a long time ago," I agreed. "You can't put a price on peace of mind." We had a great dinner out, followed by a sunset stroll on the beach. The boys splashed in the surf, chased seagulls, and threw fistfuls of sand into the water. "What a nice outing this has been," Jenny said as we walked up to the front sidewalk to our house. I was about to agree with her when I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Something up ahead that was not quite bright. I turned my head and stared at the window beside the front door. The mini blinds were shut, as they always were when we left the house, but about a foot up from the bottom of the window, the metal slats were bent apart and something was sticking through them. Something black and wet and pressed against the glass. "What the?" I said. "How could... Marley?" When I opened the front door, sure enough, there was our one-dog welcoming committee wiggling all over the foyer, pleased as punch to have us home again. We checked every room and closet for signs of Marley's unsupervised adventure. Amazingly, the house was fine. We converged on the laundry room. The crate door stood wide open. It was as if some secret accomplice had snuck in and sprung our inmate. I squatted beside the cage to have a closer look. The two locks were both slid back into the open position, and they were dripping with saliva. "It looks like an inside job," I said. "Somehow Houdini here licked his way out." "I can't believe it," Jenny said. We always fancied Marley to be as dumb as Algie, but he had been clever enough to figure out how to stick his long, strong tongue through the bars to slowly work the barrels free from their slots. He had licked his way to freedom. He proved over the coming weeks that he was able to repeat the trick easily whenever he wanted. Some days we would return to find him resting peacefully in the cage, other days to find him waiting at the front window. We took to wiring both locks in place with heavy electrical cable. That worked for a while, but one day, with distant thunder rumbling in the horizon, we came home to find that the bottom corner of the cage's gate had been peeled back. It looked as though someone had used a giant can opener. Panicky Marley was firmly stuck around the rib cage, half in and half out of the tight opening. I bent the steel gate back into place as best I could, and we began wiring all four corners of the door, as well as the locks. Pretty soon, we were reinforcing the corners of the cage itself, as Marley continued to put his brawn into busting out. Within 3 months, the gleaming steel cage we had thought was Marley-proof looked like it had taken a direct hit from a cannon. The bars were twisted and bent, and the frame pried apart. The door hardly fit anymore, and the sides bulged outward. I continued to reinforce it as best I could, and it continued to hold tenuously against Marley's full-bodied assaults. Whatever false sense of security the contraption had once offered us was gone. Each time we left, even for a half hour, we wondered whether this would be the time that our manic inmate would bust out. When would he go on another couch-shredding, wall-gouging, door-eating rampage? So much for peace of mind.